I'm going to make a confession today. I've never had the outward expression of a Holy Spirit. Every day we have conversations. Mm-hmm. I hand the wheel over every day. Free, go ahead, take it. But when I see people, like I was watching Amazing Grace, Aretha Franklin's a wonderful documentary, and a few people start, because it got good by the end, because James Cleveland and they were back and forth, and then a couple people, they politely got out the pew, and then they started doing their dance, right? Mm-hmm. And then somebody followed them, because it's always a ringleader. And I'm saying, well, you going to do that on your own if the first person didn't do it? Were you sitting there thinking about it? And that to me seems like it's manufactured, not coming from a real place, because if it were something you wanted to do, you ain't have to wait for the first lady to do it.
Well, sometimes when the presence of the Spirit comes in, it's kind of like if it all of a sudden got hot in this room, we all would start getting hot. She might get hot, and then I say, yeah, it's a little warm, and she says it's a little warm, and wow. All of us are hot at the same time. It's a wave of the Spirit. But I think
some of us could be menopausal, though.
That's true.
So that could be that.
Except for me. And,
right.
But you know what? I think the important thing, though, about the Holy Spirit and what I teach people is not necessarily the outward manifestation, but the fruit of the Spirit. Is love, peace, long-suffering, all of these other things. So the late Bishop O.T. Jones would always say, it makes no sense if you get the Spirit and speak in tongues, but you don't know how to speak to people properly in English. And so,
wow. Do people say wow in your church?
Yeah, they do. They say a lot of stuff.
Like the wow.
So you can do whatever you want in terms of the movement of the Spirit, but if your life does not reflect the fruit of the Spirit, that's the real determining factor of whether the Spirit dwells in you or not.
Now, to cuss or not to cuss. That. You had a chapter, I'd love it too, in your book about cussing. Was it cursing? So I was under the impression that a curse is like, may your family die under the bridge with a boulder on it. Like that's a curse. Mm-hmm. But to say for unlawful carnal knowledge, that's F-U-C-K.
An acronym. Mm-hmm.
Right. It is. That's just the word. Because if I said it in Spanish, is it still a curse? If I said it in Greek, is it a curse? Do you know what, if I said, Malacca, people don't know Greek. Yeah. Did I just curse at you? I did, but you don't know what it means. Yeah. I'm saying.
Well, I'm going to let you have that cursing.
Okay. I actually don't use that particular curse.
Yeah.
It would take something. Like today. Anyway, 866-801-8255.
You do?
I do.
Is that a demon?
Well, let's just say it's indignation expressed in a very special way.
Okay. All right.
Indignation.
Will you go to hell for that?
I'm not going to put anyone in hell for that because there's far more things that people should go to hell for that they think they can get away with.
All right. Cuss on.
I try.
All right.
I try not to.
All right. So 5 o'clock, we're gonna play. I'm gonna teach a black person how to play spades, which I never thought I would ever have to say that publicly, and I'm slightly embarrassed.
Who doesn't know how to play spades?
Thank you. Tell
them who it is.
It's Dr. Jason Johnson.
Oh,
so I went and got some. These aren't Bumblebee. They're bicycle, and I'm not mad at the bicycle. This is the best we could do. But I'm gonna give him some basic rules, and we're gonna get him gathered up because I think every black person should just. This is a rite of passage right here.
Yeah.
Right. You play. Apparently.
Yeah, I can play spades.
I
do bid, but
come on
spade
now.
is for amateurs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love you. I do. And I'm saying this in front of your wife. It is a very, what's that love?
Cerebral.
No, the love, the pure love.
Oh,
what's
agape.
Agape love. Mm-hmm. Agape love you. Bidwist, does a no take out a high and a low, Bishop? And your rules?
In the rules that me and my siblings play by, yes.
You are welcome to my card table anytime. Just want to let you know. And here's the other question, because this is important. The trash talking. When I run a Boston on you.
Oh, that's mandatory.
Okay.
Listen. That is mandatory,
I almost felt the Holy Spirit just come over me. Is this something wrong with me? I shouldn't get the Holy Spirit during these moments.
If you talk trash at any time, it has to be when you run a Boston.
Listen. Okay. When we playing, I'm coming up to Boston. Where's it? Springfield, Massachusetts. I got to come. Is there a lot of black people up there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because Boston scares me. Do I have to go
in
through
New York
Boston?
and Boston? No, you can. You hit Springfield before you get to Boston.
Okay, good. I ain't got to go to Boston. I'm good. Just bad memories. 866-801-8255.
Y'all go that back way? I'll take that back way to see y'all. 684 to 84 to 91.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah, y'all family for real.
Are the roads dark?
No, it's a beautiful drive.
We got headlights.
Beautiful drive. 2.5, 3 hours going that way. It's not a bad ride at all. Yeah, not a bad ride at all.
All right, so you have to do a bid wisp party or something so I could come. And
maybe I need to bring you to my lecture series.
Okay.
Oh, I would love y'all to do that.
Come on.
Oh,
all right, we just did. Look at the plan hatch right here on live radio.
I do that every February. Maybe we should make that happen.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I accept.
Well,
I haven't played bid whist since my daddy, or not real bid whist since my daddy died.
Yes, my mother was her father's partner
for 47 years, and when he passed, we tried to keep the tradition going.
It didn't work.
I've been looking for somebody that could bring
it. Well, me and my brothers do it all the time, and it's a serious rivalry, you know.
Do y'all keep a record? Because my dad had 40 years of a record.
Yeah, we keep a
okay.
record.
All right.
Every vacation it gets ugly.
Oh, I love this man.
You feel like family,
doesn't he?
I felt that from Twitter. I'm glad they petitioned for you to come back because you felt like family.
Yep.
And now I know you are.
All right, we're gonna take some calls. Oh, last question. This is another. Do you, when you preach, do you at the every?
Sometimes I don't.
Do you,
I may tune up a little bit depending on how I feel.
When it gets good to you, is a ha, and then I said a ha, and then the Lord ha, and
that's the black idiom.
That's a ha.
You know,
is the black idiom.
Do you sing too?
No, she does.
Oh, your wife sings?
Oh yeah.
Come on now.
You look
nothing.
Like
you do.
Yeah. She sings.
Praise and worship.
She sings.
I saw your liturgical situation that y'all got going there. All right, we can go to church with no aura. Mm-hmm. There's no aura in your church.
It's church. And when you first started out with man of God, it's manned of God.
Manned of God.
Yeah, they always put the D on there.
And you got to put a W in God.
That's right. That's right.
866-801-825. I had a bunch of questions. I had to get them answered, and I'm glad we're gonna go to the calls now.
I can eat a fried fish sandwich with him. You just feel like family. You do.
Now, what kind of hot sauce you use?
Yeah. Now he put mustard on his fish.
Huh? Mustard? You put mustard on your fish? No. Who does that?
Georgia people put mustard on their fish.
I like mustard on a lot of stuff. I prefer mustard. But
on whiting?
On fish. Georgia people put mustard on fish. I promise you. Tweet her, y'all, and tell her. Thank you.
But red hot.
Red hot. Okay, you definitely family.
But you're Springfield by way of what? Because you're from somewhere else. No,
I was born in Springfield. My family comes out of Mississippi.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Don't get me started on that.
Can you introduce your wife to the people?
Oh, this is my wife, Cynthia Swan.
Hey, Cynthia.
She's
Hi.
a Texas
Swan.
girl.
Oh, she's from Texas? All right, let's go to Texas. Texas. Tanner in Texas. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Bishop and First Lady Swan are in the house. Welcome.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, Pat. Hey, Miss Karen Hunter.
Hello.
Hey, Pastor. I was calling to. I wanted to question. How come there's not a strengthening amongst the black men in the church, or how come there's not a consolidation? A call for a consolidation needs to take place because we're putting the black women in high positions with grandiose titles all over America, and they're not really producing anything palatable or palpable.
Palatable?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me?
The black woman is not producing anything.
How did your ass get here? I'm sorry. I just needed to ask a question.
Are you white or black?
I'm black myself, sir.
Okay. So let me say, first of all, I think to a large extent, some men have abdicated their responsibility, and they do need to step up. Many of our churches are predominantly female, and brothers, for whatever reason, have stepped away. But I'm one who believes that women belong in leadership in the church. You can't have a woman who gives birth to Christ and then tell her she can't preach about Christ. So I don't buy into the whole concept that a woman does not deserve to have a certain title. I think anything that her calling and her gifts elevate her to, then we should be open to allow her to serve in that capacity.
You have to remember when Christ started to take his path down to, pretty much his career. He was taking on his career. He had pretty much told his family and his mother that, it's his position. It's not for you. It's for him, and you don't have the message. You're not able to.
What's his position? When did Jesus say anything? Do you remember when Christ died? Told all of the brothers, told all his disciples, in 3 days I'm going to get back up again. And then when he was crucified, Peter said, I'm going fishing. And all of the other male disciples went fishing with him. And it was the sisters who stood by him at the cross. It was the sisters who went to the tomb to dress his body. It was the sisters who were there when he rose from the dead, who he saw first. It was the sisters who went back and had to tell the brothers, look, knuckleheads, Christ is risen. So I'm not sure how you're reading the gospel. Maybe you need a different hermeneutic.
Sir, they stood by, but I'm pretty sure, sir, that they knew their position.
Tanner,
that they knew that.
Tanner, what's your point? Why'd you call here today? What is it that you really want to say?
Miss Karen Hunter, I wanted to call to let you know that every time you speak, you are giving a W to the white power structure, and it offends me.
Oh, man,
I am absolute.
Yeah, I knew it. There we go. And welcome to Foolishness Friday. Yeah, because so here's what they do. This fake politeness, Miss Karen, pastor, and I'm going to speak in these dulcet tones. I'm going to make sure I'm going to enunciate properly.
And wait on hold for 40 minutes.
And you're on hold forever. And I want to, and there's always an obfuscation. I don't really care.
I knew he wasn't when he said he was.
Yeah, it's like, the trolls. But here's the thing, Bishop. Pastor Cynthia, I'm going to give her, Sylvia, everyone listening, we're very close. They're scared. We're speaking power into people's lives. Lives are changing. People are doing things. And it's threatening the power structure. They don't like it. They want us to shut up. They'll get you off of Twitter, get Mark Lamont Hill off of CNN, and whoever else they can try to shut up, they will. That's their goal. So they call and they troll shows like this. They do it to Clay. They do it to me. They do it to Joe. Laura gets them in a different way. Godfrey, oh my goodness. And you're telegraphing people that you're scared. Yeah. You're scared. We get it. Worst thing that's going to happen is black people will be in their rightful place, which is just empowered in their own community. It has nothing to do with you. We're not trying to suppress anybody or oppress anybody.
Well, white male supremacy is in hospice. And and that's what they're feeling. They understand that within a few short years, in our children or grandchildren's lifetime, this country is going to be predominantly black and brown. And when that shift happens, before you know it, the power structure will also shift. Economics will also shift. And so this is their death knell. I mean, they're they feel it.
Yeah, but so in these states where white rule, right? That's where there's the most poverty, the most people on welfare, the worst health care, the worst education.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying, like, the way y'all are doing is not working for you. Mm-hmm. But you're holding on to something that is literally killing you because you don't want to abdicate what exactly? Nobody's asking you to give up anything. We're just saying, can we just have our freedom? I don't want to oppress you. I just want us to be able to walk freely in the world, not get shot, followed, denigrated, name called, and all of this stuff. Can we live our best lives?
Well, when you have spent your life as an oppressor, then equality makes you feel oppressed.
Of course.
And that's where they are. They fear black people and other people of color being perceived or treated as their equal.
So you spend a lot of time on Twitter batting away the roaches and the trolls, and I posted today a piece by Jane Elliott, who's been on the show a couple of times, who lived in Iowa where there were no black people at all at the time that she did this brown-eyed, blue-eyed exercise, right? No black people in her class, no black people in her town, wasn't raised around black people, but somehow as a human being inherently knew something was wrong with racism. So decided to do this experiment, this exercise, and found that within one class period, The kids who were designated as the lower, lesser than, all white kids started to behave differently. The kids that were deemed better than started to oppress within one. So it's not even about the melanin. There's something else going on here, and I don't know how to necessarily handle it on a daily basis to change somebody's mind if they are hell-bent on this way of thinking. How do we get to them? How do we reach their hearts?
Well, I think that to a large extent, being a pastor, I think there's a infusement of spirituality that needs to happen within people in order to change them. And then I think also people really need to be ostracized. I think people need to feel the repercussions of certain actions, activities, attitudes, etc., because when there are no consequences, people continue the same type of behavior. So
what do consequences look like to you, Bishop?
Well, I think for one, bigots don't need to go to the U.S. Senate or to the Supreme Court or keep their jobs. Or I don't think sexual predators, because you're a white male, you may lose your job, but you get a $32 million settlement and set for the rest of your life, when if a black man had done something on his little post office job, they would have took his pension away. Right. So I think there ought to be some consequences toward certain reprehensible behavior, because one thing that does change behavior, it's like when you slap a kid's hand when they're reaching for the socket, and they then relate that punishment with that behavior. When people begin to see consequences for their behavior, they'll begin to change their behavior.
But if the people, the gatekeepers are the people, the same people who are the predators and the oppressors, who are also responsible for doling out the punishment,
that's why we need to flip that. That's why this shifting of people in America, but they think it'll happen around 2045. I hope it happens far sooner than that. And the shifting in the power structure needs to happen ASAP. Because you're absolutely correct. Because as long as I was telling my wife about the woman in Texas who got 5 years in prison for voting, and how a white judge in that same district got caught doing voter fraud and got probation. Because as long as the people who are doling out the punishment look like them, they're going to get a slap on the wrist.
866-801-8255. Got the bishop in the house. Madam Cynthia, Cousin Syl. It's Friday, Foolishness Friday. 866. Oh, I don't need to give out the number. All the lines are full. Let's take one more call before we go to break. Let's go to Nashville, Tennessee. Frank.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I have very straightforward beliefs on God, and I think too many people play with the Trinity. See, I know I'm saved, and I've been through a lot of obstacles, but I also realize I've gotten through all those obstacles because of my Heavenly Father. And I've been through prejudicial areas, being a Navy officer.
Okay. We have 30 seconds. I don't want to cut you off. Get to your point really quickly, please.
So basically, if you can't give your life to God, you can forget it, because you can't play with Him. You straight with Him, he'll be straight with you. That's all.
Okay, that was a simple message. Not quite sure. I mean, it's like we could put that on a postcard. Not quite sure where we go with that.
Praise the Lord.
We praise the Lord. Let's bow our heads, giving honor to God.
Who is the head of my life?
Yes. I'm blessed and highly favored. I hate all of those things. Can I just say that, Bishop? When I ask people how they doing, they tell me they blessed and highly favored. I want to slap the hell out of them. Can I just say that? I just said it out loud. I'm like, really?
Well,
really? Y'all ain't got nothing else to say?
But do you mind when the Clark sisters sing blessed and highly favored?
I'm not mad at that, but it's different, especially with Twinkie.
Some folk are so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good.
Yes.
I love that. All right, when we come back, the Bishop's still going to be here, and so are we. So stick around. It's the Karen Hunter Show. We'll be back. All right, Pastor's here. Do you want to take any more calls? We were talking during the break. People are so legalistic. They get caught up and entangled in the words.
And they don't oftentimes don't know how to interpret it. Yeah. And sometimes, you interpret scripture different ways. Sometimes it's dispensational, sometimes it's literal, sometimes it's spiritual, and people mix it all up and get lost. Yeah.
And then oppress people with that with that nonsense.
Yeah, Romans 13,
Ciao. All right. You want to take some calls? All right, Kevin in Houston. We're going to stay in Texas since that's where Cynthia's from. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up? God bless everybody.
You too.
All right, thank you. Got a question. If, and I use that very loosely, if the word is real, it's a history. My question is kind of on education. Why are we not approaching the Bible strictly from an education perspective, researching the cultures, researching the lineages, researching who is who and what is what? Genesis 10, 1-5 gives the lineages of the Europeans. Inside that lineage, there's Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz today, and they'll tell you, walk up to them, say, are you an Ashkenazi Jew? They say, yeah, I am. And if the Bible is saying that there's a people that in the last days going to be masquerading in Israel as Shem, why are we not actually breaking down the scriptures and putting things together in their proper order and place and helping especially black men understand that you're in that book? That actually is your legacy. That actually is your book. Why are we not doing that? We're talking about like black men aren't in the church.
Okay.
There are plenty of scholars who have done that and who continue to do that all of the time. I mean, William Watley, James Cone. I mean, a number of scholars have written extensively about the black presence in the Bible and have talked about the very things that you're talking about even now. And plenty of people have these discussions all the time. I think it's just a matter of connecting with these particular individuals to glean from that knowledge that they have.
Okay. Let's go to Samantha in Georgia. Thank you for holding. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. You're on with Bishop. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello to everyone. Yes, the two things that you all was talking about earlier about our internal problems and our external problems, how can we bridge that? Because on the one hand, I listen to Tech Tuesday and Shakers and Movers, Torrin Ellis, and be so inspired about, hey, where am I going? Where's my place in all of this? I gotta do something, all of that. And of course I go to church and I believe in God. And I was thinking, I remember Karen saying, if your church is not got an after school program or helping the community, something about to the effect that, it boo to your church. And I agree with that because the church has to be an extension of the black agenda. But in the same breath, I just recently got divorced, and my twin father probably have seen them. We were separated for 2 years, probably have picked them up maybe 5 times out of 2 years. So how do I bridge that?
The church is a microcosm of the broader society, and so I think the shifting that you've seen in the church has to do with the shifting that you've seen in the mentality of black people in general. When we were poor and struggling and all of that, that's what we focused on. And the church focused on social justice. It focused on starting schools and building hospitals and doing everything that black people could not do out there in society because the church was the place where they got empowered. But once we reached certain milestones and the shifting happened and the prosperity gospel happened and all of that stuff happened, the church went away from those basic principles that empowered our people. And you all have to challenge your churches to get back to the basics.
And isn't your relationship to God your responsibility ultimately? I think we too often put it at the feet of a pastor to lead us and guide us when we've all been imbued with the Holy Spirit that we have to connect with on a regular basis. And that's the relationship and the muscle that we have to build individually to get to our best lives.
There's the age-old saying, you can lead a horse to water. but you can't make them drink. And a pastor can do his best to inspire, to give you certain tools, but if you don't take advantage of them, if you don't walk through the door that's been opened, you can't then turn and blame somebody else. There is a level of personal responsibility that we've got to take.
I'll take one more call.
Can I add just one point to
absolutely.
that? Because some of what I heard in her voice too, there's a responsibility to me for us when there's a disconnect of things that are happening in our lives in general. There are certain things that I go to my spiritual father with. There are some things that I no longer can go to my natural father. But then there's also some things that I need to talk to professionals about, right? And so I think one of the things that we don't do well enough in our community is address when it's time to get to that place as well. In our
professional help.
To get professional help,
From a licensed psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist.
When the issues have gone on too far.
And pastors and spiritual leaders have to know their limits. I'm
Most
one of the
definitely.
first ones to say that's beyond my capacity. You need to get some help over here.
And to not stigmatize people to think that it's, can we lay everything at Jesus' feet?
One out of every 4 of us has some level of mental illness, some mild, some severe. So you just count 4 people in this room. Which one of y'all,
I'll be the one. I'll be the one. And here's the thing. I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily know if just us saying that we need to talk to somebody, I don't necessarily address that as illness.
Right.
There are just some things that the spirit world cannot deal with. There are just some issues that we need to address with professionals to continue to be well.
But if we think, I could talk to you forever. Can you come back?
Sure.
Come back, because I just think that we're scratching the surface, and this conversation must be had.
Sure.
And I think we also have a disconnect between God and our role in God. Like there's God's over here. And if Jesus said I could do far better things and he's done greater things, I'm working on it. Let's figure this out. Like, it's not a separation. We need to come together. Take one last call, then we're going to say later. Candace in Missouri, welcome.
Hi, Karen. Hey, guys. How are you?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, so I just want 2 things. First thing is that that guy that was the W, I don't know what was going on. He just kind of branched off.
Tanner.
Tanner. I knew that wasn't a black person. I knew that at the beginning. You guys have
Can you speak into your phone? Because we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I have my headset on. 1 second.
So how the kids? How y'all doing?
Everybody's good.
Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Tell them I said hey.
Where's a good place to eat around here?
Oh, it depends on
Hello?
what you want. Okay. Hey, Candace, welcome back.
Sorry about that. Sorry. And just the fact that the fear, I think, is quite ridiculous. But I guess that's them. But the second question I had was, I have started to talk to a lot of black youth who, one, are having trouble with. It's more the society that's controlling the conversation, but the relationship between God and science, and how, I don't know, the conversation is that they can't coexist. And the other part of that is some black youth kind of leaving Christianity, and kind of converting back over to the research and the roots of African tribalism.
Yep.
Or just African culture, and how you guys felt about that. But they don't say anything bad about Christianity or anything. Like, still have respect for everyone. They just
they're
want
kind
to
of
get
done
back
with
to those roots.
Thank you for your call, Candace. And atheism is on the rise as well.
Yeah, I think young people are automatically inquisitive, and they're always going to be trying to do a search for knowledge. And so that's that time of your life that you really are out there trying to find what works for you. So that's not a surprise at all. There's always a shifting, away from, and then many of those same ones that she's talking about that are shifting away from Christianity, some of them later on in life will come right back to it. And so the ebbs and flows of how people deal with spirituality and religion is just a part of life.
And it's healthy.
Yeah.
I say if my God can't be challenged, then how weak or strong. You know how people want to burn down buildings if you say something about their God. And I'm like, my God's really powerful. Bring it. It's all right. If you can't hold your God up under the light and examine and have the challenges, then how strong is your God?
Absolutely.
You're strong, Bishop.
I'm trying to be. Bishop
Swan is amazing, incredible. Follow him on Twitter before they kick him off again.
Yeah, that could be coming any minute now. Who knows?
My pastor sends his well wishes.
All right.
Reverend Jones.
Cool.
Hey, Pastor.
Reverend Tim Jones. You know Tim Jones.
Tim Jones.
All right.
Pastor at Talbert Swan. You can follow him on Twitter. Please do. But don't come for him. Because especially if he ain't called for you, because it will end poorly.
Thou shalt be sendeth for
away. And you can go to talbertswan.org and check out all of the amazing work that he's doing in the community. Really amazing human being. I'm glad I got to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad I got to meet you too, Cynthia. Thank you guys for being here.
April 24th rocks.
Come on now.